Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we ride in Fiat through a magical and twitchy world of crazy beats, horse heads, and angry robots, all in a pursuit of endless fun. My brain is melting.
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, the official podcast of Monsters Unlimited, a creative agency with a business brain. I'm Shad Conley, Communications Director at Monsters Unlimited, and sometimes I put on a horse head and listen to club music.
You do?
You didn't know that?
Oh, no.
I'm wearing it right now.
Nice. Well, I'm just a guy sitting in a Fiat wearing a horse mask, so deal with it. Okay, that's kind of boring. And you know me, right? I'm Patrick Jepper.
You're pretty well known to our podcast listeners. Since there's only two of us, if they don't know who we are, I don't know what they're doing. They're not really listening. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, our goal on Speaking Human is to simplify complex marketing topics. We toss aside all the buzzwords and mumbo-jumbo to focus on how marketing can bring brands and people together. On today's episode, we take you on a trippy journey as we explore Fiat's risky marketing move to bring some very weird Gifs to television screens. So let's get into it.
Diggy bounce, diggy bounce, diggy bounce. Diggy bounce, diggy bounce, diggy bounce. Diggy bounce, diggy bounce, diggy bounce. Diggy, diggy, diggy bounce, diggy bounce.
What you just heard was the audio from a recent Fiat commercial. That's actually the song Biggie Bounce by Diplo. I hope I'm saying that right. And if you think the audio is weird, wait till you see the video. This commercial is made entirely of GIFs featuring Fiats involved in oddball scenarios. You can, of course, find a link to that video in our show notes on speakinghuman.com. Plug. Patrick, why don't you tell our listeners a couple things? One, what a GIF is, and two, how this bizarre piece of advertising from Fiat came about.
First of all, a GIF, G-I-F, stands for Graphics Interchange Format. What is that? I know that's the question you're asking. It's a bitmap image format that was introduced by CompuServe in 1987 and has since come into widespread usage on the World Wide Web. That's straight up from Wikipedia, by the way.
That's not your own thoughts? Because I thought it was.
I love saying the World Wide Web. More importantly, GIFs support animations. You know, those weird animated images that used to drive you crazy back in the days of the World Wide Web and the information superhighway. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the information superhighway. I take it to work most days.
Yes. So back then, animated GIFs, they were big and they're making a resurgence. The second part of your question was, two, how did these bizarre advertising campaign / TV commercials come about? Mr. Francois, Chrysler's CMO, said the GIFs were originally produced for Tumblr, but he liked their raw look and feel so much that he used them in a big investor meeting in May. They became so popular within that little group that they expanded and made them the TV commercials you see today.
Well said. So basically what they did was they took these GIFs, these things created online, kind of sewed them together and made one whole ad out of it, added that crazy beat we played for you, that little bit of music. And, this is all kind of aimed at appealing to a younger audience, doing something with a limited budget, creating something that kind of draws attention. So what'd you think, Patrick? What do you think of the Fiat ad? Do you like it?
They are super bizarre. As I've gotten older, I'm liking the more bizarre, creative spins on marketing campaigns. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because they all sort of blend in and become very bland when they're doing the same thing. So when they're bizarre, it's something new and fun and exciting,
Yeah, I agree completely. I love this. I love these ads. I love the endless fun campaign. I think, especially people in our position where we're looking at marketing all the time and you're obviously talking about it on this podcast, seeing stuff that's off the beaten path is more exciting. It grabs your attention more. You just don't see a lot of that risk-taking in marketing. When you look at enough of it, there's very much a sameness to everything. And this is just, it's something different. It grabs you. it's strange in a different way. You know, a lot of companies have done those kind of strange commercials that have like weird comedy in them. We've talked about a few on the podcast. But this is kind of strange in its own sort of way.
And that's the thing. You know, Francois, or as they call him, Mr. Francois.
Is his first or last name Francois?
His last name. He's Oliver Francois.
Oh, okay.
That's a great name. It's a great name. But he said there's 2 rules for Fiat advertising. Number 1, the brand is stylish, irreverent, and fun, and a little bit flirtatious at times. And so he wants that in every ad. And then number 2, he wants them to be courageous, you know, always doing something surprising, unexpected, and different. So I think that this series, anyway, accomplishes that, you know, for sure. And it's good to have those rules set in place. You know, it gives a grounding, a sort of plan, a strategy, if you will.
Yeah, and it also makes them cohesive because they all kind of fit together and, you know, present that branding the way they want to appeal to the audience they want to. It's also, you know, you look at these ads and it's also very now in terms of kind of what people are seeing online and, you know, how GIFs and memes and Vine videos have come up, especially the millennial audience are used to this visual.
You know, and because so many were making animated GIFs on Tumblr, that was where it started. You know, they were actually just trying to appeal to them. He liked the look and feel so much that they ended up doing them as TV commercials. But this is a very cheap way of doing these. You know, he even said himself, it's an experiment. And if it doesn't work, it's not a big deal because they didn't invest a lot of money in them. But in the next phase, they're actually going to ask consumers, that word, to create their own GIFs with the hashtag MyFiatUSA, and then the best ones will be posted to their Tumblr page. So that's pretty cool. It's a great way to engage and interact with their customers, you know?
Yeah, and from a content standpoint, anytime you can get your customers or consumers to produce the content for you, I mean, that's just win-win. You know, you talk about not allocating as much budget. You can just grab what somebody else has done, put it together, and it's already engaging because people are already involved in it and invested in it.
Yeah, and people aren't against that because, hey, you know, wow, they used my idea.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I think this ad does well is it creates, you know, something a lot of people forget about, which is a sort of tone and vibe around the brand, you know, rather than a kind of traditional marketing advertising narrative where you're telling a little story or saying why this is good. It's just more about creating that tone and vibe. And they do that in this strange video, but yet the endless fun messaging still comes through and the branding still comes through. So it's kind of amazing the way they pulled off that little hat trick there.
You want that vibe, and then you also want to grab the attention, and just so happens that those 2 collide in this brand. It's very easy to be different if you're very stylish and different in the brand itself, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Now, was there anything else you think this ad does well? And a follow-up question, you know, you may like the ad, but do you think it's good marketing?
Well, I think it grabs your attention. That's the biggest thing for me, because in so many car commercials, it's just so blasé. You know, and so changes the rules a bit for car advertising. But do I think it's good marketing? I mean, we're talking about it, and there's countless articles talking about it, Autoblog, Adweek, Advertising Age. So to me, they've definitely accomplished their goal of getting noticed and being in front of people. Just like life, it's very relative. You know, some people hate these and some people will love them because they're different. I think that's good marketing, you know, because you're getting people to talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, you know, anytime you do something kind of bold or risky, there's going to be critics. There's going to be that, you know, I hate it side, and there's going to be that I love it side, because that's just the nature of doing something that hasn't been done before. You know, people have strong reactions to it. That's the beauty and glory of this campaign. I mean, we talked about it. They're just, marketing is so vanilla. You know, it's just a sea of sameness. And this is something that somebody trying something different that actually stands out. We see it on a daily basis, though. There's just so much fear in marketing. You know, how many times have you talked to somebody and they're like, yeah, we really want to do something different. We want this to be different. We want it to stand out. And then, you know, from our side of creative and marketing, you know, we put together things that we're like really proud of, that we think are really bold. They stand out, you know. Slowly the people are like, well, let's scale it back, you know, let's add in some more of these buzzwords, let's kind of tone it down a little bit. And what you end up with is just kind of the same thing that everybody else is doing. There's just so much fear of trying something going outside these sort of established boundaries.
So there's something to say about breaking those rules. The rules that govern us in our day-to-day marketing, it's that trying to just go along, not making a lot of waves, but, trying to have results with that is sometimes very, very difficult because you're in that sea of sameness, with everyone else.
Yeah. And obviously the big risk of doing something different is very real possibility of failure, which people would rather have minimal reward than something that falls on its face. So anytime you see something like this, where somebody stares down that dark tunnel and says, let's go down there, I give them credit for that. I think that's what pops. It can have a great reward.
Yeah. This animated GIF format isn't new. They didn't create that. They just took it and applied it to a different medium.
And like you said earlier, you look at car commercials and they're so polished, they're like these $1 million ads that look like they have like Hollywood cinematographers on it. So then you look at something like this that's just these looping, low quality videos within that car industry. It's something totally different and definitely something more geared towards the young and definitely something of its time. We were having the discussion the other day about some advertising from, early in the 1950s, advertising cigarettes and stuff to housewives and how dated it seems now. This is something you probably look at in 30 years and they'll be like, what the hell is that?
They're going to be like, I can't understand.
What was happening to society?
Or you never know.
Robots.
Maybe that's what the future holds. We're all going to have weird horse masks on.
I hope so, because I hope the future holds endless fun.
Oh, yeah.
So wrapping it up here, what do you think companies can learn? What can they learn from the Fiat GIF ads?
We talk about this a lot in the podcast and, in other forums like the blog, but you don't have to have big budgets to create really cool advertising and marketing campaigns. This one is cheap to produce. Even though it's cheap to produce, it stands out amongst the blah automobile ads. So there's always a way for you to stand out regardless of your budget. You can get people talking about your brand by just doing something simple that's very different than what you've been doing or that everybody else is doing in your industry. Those would be the things I would say you could take away.
Yeah. My key takeaway is actually pretty similar to yours, and it is Moneyball, which goes kind of with where we are at in baseball season right now. Did you ever see the movie or read the book Moneyball, Patrick?
I saw the movie.
Basically, the idea behind it was, here was this baseball team that they just didn't have the money of like the Yankees that were spending $200 million. They have like $35 million a year to spend. So you just needed to find a different way to play the game and be competitive. And that's kind of the same thing that all sorts of small businesses or even medium-sized businesses are trying to do. You can't spend millions of dollars on ads. Not everybody can do that. Sometimes you just have to play Moneyball. You have to find a way to compete with the big guys for a low budget. And that means doing things differently, looking at things differently, taking a different approach, making some risky moves, making some bold choices. If you try to play the game the same way they're playing it, you just won't win. So this is a great example of the way you can use your resources to create something engaging that stands out and grabs people's attention.
I love these analogies to movies and music that you've been using the last few podcasts.
We're both similar in this way. This is the way my pop cultural brain is wired from consuming, movies, sports, music, commercials for 30 some years. It's all just popping around in there like pop rocks, man.
Good old pop rocks from the 80s. Well, anyway, just like any brand, you're just trying to build some equity every step of the way. And so I think they've done a great job here, so just deal with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I like your take of just deal with it.
Deal with it. Well, that's good. That's it for today's show. You can find current and past episodes of the podcast at speakinghuman.com. You can also subscribe to the Speaking Human podcast in the iTunes store.
Email us with your thoughts on Fiat's GIF ads. You can also, email us if you have any questions, comments, any other, anything you want to talk about, some trash talk, whatever. Feedback at thinkmonsters.com. That's feedback at thinkmonsters.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking human.